It is time to talk about social media. Who owns what? Now, we are joined by a good friend of the show, Richard Gearhart, who is the producer and host of Passage to Profit and also an attorney. Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, Teddy. Great to be here. So good to be back.
It's great to have you back again. We had a great conversation last time, and I'm sure this one is going to be informative and lots of fun as well. But let's talk about this, because you say that there are a few key things that we need to think about before we mindlessly post and repost, because that's something that you're going to touch on different social media platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all of it. Let's get into it. First up, let's talk about who owns the copyright. How does this all work?
So, yeah, absolutely, Teddy. And this fits so perfectly about what you were talking about before, because social media is just absolutely so important nowadays. Over 70% of Americans are on social media right now. And that includes, of course, celebrities like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Lady Gaga, Oprah, and of course, all the Kardashians, right? So everybody's doing social media, but the question is, who owns the content when you post that picture, when you take that photograph, when you run that video on social media? Who owns you on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram? And so the first thing you need to know about posting on social media is that you own the copyright. If you are a content creator, if you write those words, if you shoot that video, if you post that photograph, you're a content creator and you own the copyright. And the amazing thing about owning the copyright is that a copyright lasts for your life plus 75 years. So
wow.
You own the copyright even when you're dead, and nobody can take that away from you. So that's one interesting fact. The second thing you need to know about posting on social media is when you go to the platform and you put your picture or your video on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, the platform has almost unlimited rights to use that any way that you want. So, of course, that is what you want. You want people to share your photograph, your content, and maybe Oprah will see it and she'll share it and you'll become famous, right? So that's the second thing you need to know. The third thing you need to know about posting on social media is that other people have rights in their content too. So if they take that content, or if you take that content from outside the platform and post it on social media, you could be sued. Now, that's not always going to happen, of course. It depends on the situation. But if you're taking information or content from a superstar, you could get into big trouble. So there was a podcast called Oprah-demics, and Oprah found out about the podcast. And even though the Oprah-demics podcast was all about her and it was her fan club, she decided that she didn't want other people using her name without her permission. And so the people got sued and they had to stop the podcast. The fourth thing you need to know about posting on social media is that you have rights in your content as well. So if somebody takes your picture or your photograph and they post it on LinkedIn or Facebook without your permission, you can file what's known as a DMCA takedown notice, and the platform has to investigate. And if the content is one-to-one, then they'll take it down right on the spot. And the fifth thing you need to keep in mind when you're posting on social media is you have a right to your own opinions, but stay away from discrimination, hate speech, and lies, and just make sure that you tell the truth. And those are the 5 things that you need to know about who owns you on social media.
Okay, so now we've got the basics down. So, and I want to dig a little more deeply into all of these, because I don't feel like I completely understand how the platform has unrestricted rights. You gave the example of Oprah. So does that mean that, like, if I post a picture, then I should just expect that people could go ahead and repost it? I just want to
Right.
Okay. That's basically, that could be a good thing.
Yeah. And that's anybody who's a member of the platform has a license in the content that you post on the platform. And actually, the platform itself has a license too. So it can be shared in any way that the platform deems appropriate. Now, of course, most platforms have rules about how content is shared, right? So you have to obey those, but it's the platform that makes the rules. So, you just have to keep all of those things in mind when you're posting on social media.
So if someone takes my picture and photoshops it, if the platform it, that's it, right?
Well, you're a public figure, and so there are some rules that apply to public figures that don't necessarily apply to other people. There's also laws that pertain to rights of privacy, and there's a lot of disputes in the courts about, well, when is something private and when is, just for
Right.
person's use, and when is it a public feature. Generally, if you're using something person's photo for commercial gain, that's when you get into the most trouble.
it.
So
Okay.
yes, they could, but in theory, yes, somebody can take your picture and post it on social media. If you don't give them your permission, then they could be in trouble. So.
Okay, so let's talk about the reposting and using someone else's stuff without their permission. A lot of times I'll see on social media, they might say, I don't own the rights to this music, or I don't own the rights to this photo, but they post it anyway. Is a disclaimer like that enough?
Well, I think sometimes that can kind of help keep the peace if you give an attribution on social media. But the truth is that if it's somebody else's content, you really need their permission to post it. And giving an attribution or giving somebody credit or saying, this is where I got it from, is not enough. You really need the express agreement of the content creator in order to use their content in your post.
Okay, that's good to know, because sometimes I wonder, my mind, especially with all the training that we've gotten here at Local 4, you know what I mean? As an NBC affiliate, we're like, they want to make sure we know what to do and what not to do. That's for broadcast, right? So when it comes to social media,
Right.
when you see something and it's pervasive, you're like, is this enough? Nothing is happening to these people, but it's good to know you need express permission to use someone else's content. Now, you said also people can't steal our content. Is it worth it if they're not doing much with it, or do we have to pick our battles with this one? How do we navigate that?
Well, I think you said it 100% correctly, Toddy. You have to pick your battles, and lots of times getting attorneys involved is expensive, and you need to make sure that there's a good reason. If somebody is harming your reputation or harming your business, or if it's the content has special personal value to you, then it can make sense to pursue it. Lots of times you don't have to get lawyers involved. Simply writing them a letter, or again, if it's posted on social media, also filing a DMCA notice, which forces the platform to investigate, can also be a resolution. But like you said, you have to be careful. You have to pick your battles, and you have to make sure that it's worth it. I mean, sometimes it's okay if somebody uses your content because it gets your name and your message out there.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we all hope to get reposted by Oprah, right? Kari
I'm
is
still waiting.
laughing.
It hasn't happened for me yet.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for all of us. But now let's talk about this, because a lot of times, and Kari is a musician, what if a musician posts their work on social media, right? Just to get it out there, just to kind of, get people familiarized with what they do and what their sound is, and just really using it as a tool of self-promotion. Is that tricky? Can people steal your music in that way, or is that also considered under copyright protection?
Well, if it's on the platform, people can share it. If they try to commercialize it on social media, you may be able to stop them. If they take it off the platform and they record it someplace and then propagate the recording, then you would have a legal case against them. So it's only shareable when it's on the platform. Once you go outside the platform and somebody shares it without your permission, they're in trouble.
Okay, that's good to know, because I was always wondering what that fine line was. I'm sure you wondered, Kari, as well.
All the time, because I have one of my one of my good friends. He makes beats and he posts them It'll just be like, maybe 10 songs that he made, and it's just instrumentals, and people will routinely take those instrumentals and then add some of their own lyrics to it, and then put it on YouTube or something like that, and then it's like, yeah, hey, Dr. Illingsworth made this, but you didn't pay me for it, so like he doesn't,
Right.
you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're switching platforms like that, then yeah, that could be, then you would have a case, right? But if you put it on YouTube and they take it and they repurpose it on YouTube, chances are they're going to be able to continue to use that. Now, they're also altering the work by adding words and stuff, so there may be other things that you can do because of that. But in general, if they're sharing what you've created, you put it on the platform, knowing that YouTube or whoever has a license in it, right? And then you go and you need to expect that other people are going to share it. So it's a great development. I mean, for musicians, it used to be that you had to go through the record company in order to get something published and heard by other people. But the more you put things out there, the more risk you take that you're going to lose control of your content, right? So it's a double-edged sword, right? And on the one hand, you can get a lot of notoriety just posting it yourself, and eventually turn it into a commercial, make money from it, right? But you also lose control over it. So, step wisely, I think, is the best advice you can give there. So.
I agree. Because there's this temptation, right? I'm going to take my destiny into my own hands. I don't have to deal with a record company, because the chances of getting signed with a record company are really, really slim. And do you even want that deal, especially with the way that they're structured these days? So it's just a little risky thing because then I know I've heard people say, you use my music on your video, my music contributes to your video going viral, but you get all of the ad money for that, right? The person who composed the music doesn't get any of it. So it gets into these little tricky areas. So, but now I want to move on to talking about what we can and cannot say on social media, because people, I'm going to be fully transparent with you. I know a lot of people who are careful about what they post on social media. And then I know a lot of people, these are professional adult people, okay, 30s, 40s, who are fully grown and should know better and say, it doesn't matter what I post on social media, it's my platform, right? And I'm like, well, you're kind of looking for a job right now. So I don't recommend that. You might want to take some of that stuff down. What do you say about what we post and don't post and how it can impact our lives?
Well, I think you brought up a great example, and lots of times you have to keep in mind that employers will use social media as sort of a secondary background check on people, and under federal law, they can't deny somebody a job or fire somebody because of what they say on social media, but they can always find some other reason to reject you as a candidate or terminate you if they don't like what's on social media. So you have to be aware that what you say out there could be seen by somebody important, influential in your life, right? So that's the first thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is, I always just say, use common sense, apply the golden rule. It's okay to have opinions, and we understand that part of social media is getting attention, but I also think that you can go too far. And when you start talking in terms of hate speech or making discriminatory comments, then you're crossing a line. And every social media platform has rules of engagement to try to keep the dialogue at least somewhat simple. So or civil. And so if you need to be aware of those rules. And I think most people know nowadays when that line is going to be crossed and when it's not, right? And so I think that, my advice is just, think about what you're saying and understand why you're saying it. And if you're trying to get attention from a lot of people, realize that, keep it nice, or at least keep it decent.
Yes, I agree with that, because once it's there, it is there forever, forever.
Right.
There's no coming
It
back
doesn't.
from it.
It doesn't go away, Toddy, and a lot of people regret things that they said earlier, later on down the road. So you want to make sure you avoid that if you possibly can.
I
So.
agree. I agree. All right. So, what are some other, final things that we should keep in mind when posting on social media? How do we protect ourselves, our content, and the like?
Well, I say I think you wanna be creative, and you want to be engaging with your posts and your information, and that's the point. Is to be creative and to express yourself. I personally think that you should focus more on the creative and expressive piece than on the protective piece. The protective piece is only there if something goes wrong. And there are things that you can do if something goes wrong. I think creators are at when they're able to simply focus on creating and then worry about the protection pieces later. So that's my advice to content creators out there. Do what you're going to do, and if there is a problem later, then you can always follow up with the platform. You can follow up with the person who's abusing your content, but focus on creating first.
Great advice. Great advice. Another great conversation. Richard, thank you so much for joining us for Local 4 Plus Live this morning. We'll see
Thank you
you
very
soon.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, once again,
That man's
Richard,
good.
he is good. He is good. He makes it really simple. Go back and watch this interview again to make sure you caught all of the nuggets that were information that were shared today. But I really like how you said, how you wrapped it up. Do your thing. Just focus on creating your content and try to keep it so you don't have to fall back. You know what I mean?
And actually, wait, real quick, because
Sure.
he's still here.
Is he still here?
Can I ask you a quick question, sir? So,
Absolutely.
Look, I'm not a person that reads the stuff that Twitter and Instagram, whatever. When they have 7-page long things. Now I'm not gonna read it, right? And I'm sure they know that. I'm not a lawyer.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering, have you ever taken the time to actually read through that stuff? And if you have, are all the provisions and whatnot for a content creator, are they pretty much the same, so I don't have to worry if I put something on Twitter that it is, if I also put it on Instagram, is different situations? Like, how does that work out?
That's a good question.
Well, that's a great question, and in fact, I have read all of the platform license agreements and policies. And it'll make your head spin. It really will, and it's ridiculous that anybody expects a person who's not legally trained to go through that and understand it, right? But that said, what you said is correct, that they're all pretty much the same. There's tiny variations in the language, but the general principles are the same for all the platforms.
Well, hearing someone who actually read it and who is an attorney,
That makes me feel a lot better.
it makes us both feel a lot. I could see the relief in Kari's
Trust
eyes.
me, I didn't enjoy it.
So then, all right, real quick, I got one more, and I'm not
Go
gonna bother
for
you
it.
anymore. I promise. All right, we're really big on Halloween in my household, and every year that my kid's been alive, he's gone viral because of his Halloween costume. One time, he was Bob Ross, and PBS saw it, and they took the picture and added it to their Instagram with the PBS banner, like he's our kid of the day or something like that. The question is, does PBS owe me money? Go.
Well, I mean, good luck getting it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I guess you could probably make, but the question is like how much, and do you really what? I think it's great
Yeah.
that your child was noticed and publicized, and I think
Yeah.
that that's a wonderful thing. Do they owe you money? Maybe, but good luck.
Just
Good
for
luck.
I'm not a monster. I would not take from the public
I love it.
broadcasting system.
I love the honesty.
So,
Good luck with that. Good luck.
that man, thank you so much.
Thank you
Richard's great.
again.
All right.
You're awesome.
Take care.